Well, welcome everyone to the grand opening at Orton Keys. I'm Andre Blakely, the former Illinois Market President and current National Director of Public Housing Partnerships for Gorman & Company. On behalf of Gorman & Company, I'd like to say it has been a tremendous honor to work in this community over the last 10 years. Over that period, we've been able to accomplish more than $50 million in total public housing redevelopment.
Well, today's a celebration of the opening of the newly remodeled Orton Keys apartments. And it's a huge impact both on the residents, the community, and the partnership between Rockford Housing Authority and our firm Gorman & Company. It's important to the community because it's a vote in their future. It's a vote and a message to those residents to say, we care about the quality of your life. We're going to invest in improving the quality of your life. And you folks are important, your community is important.
You know, when we looked at this development initially, we were thinking, do we take it down? What do we do with it? Clearly, we've done other projects where we've just done ground up. But this development has a lot of history to it. It has a lot of rich history to it. And the buildings, frankly, had good bones to them. So instead of just taking it down, we said, well, why don't we invest in the existing infrastructure? As I arrived here this morning and drove around, I'm just fascinated with just the improvement of the facades, the improvements of the interiors. I'm seeing kids running around, they're happy. It feels like a warm, inviting community. And really and truly, that's kind of what we really wanted to accomplish, is to have that family, safe, decent, sound housing here in place.
So Orton Keys was a unique facility in the RHA portfolio. It was one of those facilities where folks moved here for the last 50 years, and they felt a place that they were connected to, a home, which is very uncommon in many of our public housing sites in Rockford. And so as we looked at how do we redevelop Orton Keys, we wanted to preserve that feeling. And so the RHA had committed over the course of years to a continual investment around Orton Keys. So there were 3 different phases of construction, 3 different major sources of construction, all intended to build on the one before. We're here today because the construction is finally done.
Being with Gorman for 5 years, I've had an opportunity to work with, on a lot of different types of projects. This project is different in that this is a rad rehab, in that we're using the existing buildings, we're not knocking them down and starting from scratch. We're updating and bringing all the technology up to the current date and really making sure that this project's viable for another 25, 30 years. And that's something that's different than a lot of the work that we do other places when we do a new construction project or we do a historic rehab work where we use the bones of a building. Here in this case, we're basically taking out the poor parts of the project, the cabinets, the doors, the drywall that's damaged, the exterior stone that was on the outside that was a leaking issue. Taking those things away and putting back in an excellent replacement that's going to last for the next 25, 30 years minimum. The difference with Gorman is that their investment is full circle, in that they're the developer of a project, they're the architect of the project, they're the construction department, and then we also have our property management division. Having our fingers in every piece of that circle really makes to ensure that we have everything set to have a good project that is well built, but also the fact that it is something that's viable for the long term.
The thing I find most valuable about the economic impact of this development, we'll talk about the actual numbers of the development itself, but I want to touch first on the actual impact for residents as a result of doing the right thing. And so being able to put the monies into this property, reconnect them back into the community, we've seen from the beginning of the project to the end of the project, nearly a 20% increase in residents' incomes. So when you connect folks to the community, when you give them a good place to live, they do the things that they all want to do and we all want to do, which is be able to live self-sufficiently. So that to me is ultimately a huge win for the folks who live here in our city.
This is an exciting development that preserves much needed diversity and depth in the local housing choices available to families in Rockford. In this case, the city saw an opportunity to transform an outdated public housing complex into a community resource that will help families find affordable housing with better security and connections to community amenities.
No one lives in public housing because they choose to live in public housing. I mean, they really don't. I mean, something has either happened to cause them to be there, and or they just can't make a living wage, which allows them to live in private sector. So our role is to not only provide them with decent, safe housing, but to give them the opportunities to succeed.
A lot of the residents, when they come into their new unit that they moved out of and see the new finishes, the new flooring, the new woodwork, new doors, new cabinets, it's clean, it's tidy, it really helps them, one, take care of it, and two, it makes them feel like a better person.
At the end of the day, our core mission is to provide safe, decent, sound housing. That is the basis of everything. If a resident doesn't have that, he or she can't develop into what they eventually should become. You know, I mean, it all starts with housing, right? It all starts with safe housing. It all starts with clean housing. And so, if you saw these units, you know, before these renovations, I frankly, I'll be honest with you, I was very ashamed of the shape that they were in. And I took it upon myself to ensure that the board, RHA, Gorman work collectively together so that we could improve the housing stock here. And you know what? We did that. As many of you know, I grew up in Rockford, and so I know what this place looked like 30 plus years ago. I know what it looked like 10 years ago. I know what it looked like 3 years ago. I know what it looked like when we did the groundbreaking, and everything that we envision for this development, this area to look like, is what I envision it to look like.
I'd like to remind everyone that there's still work to be done. You see, we've never professed that a real estate execution alone transforms someone's life. Improving housing conditions is just a start, a fundamental threshold that creates an entry point for hope, leading to transformation that could potentially change and impact future generations. Our commitment is not to ourselves, but something far greater, yet so simple, and that's helping our neighbors.